prostrate to the Arya Triple. Thus did I hear at one time the Bhagavan was dwelling on Master Walter's mountain in Rashtriya, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was absorbed in a concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also, at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of a profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then, through the power of Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara. How should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this: correctly and repeatedly beholding those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness, without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element, and so on, up to including no mind element and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly, completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in the reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, should be known as truth, since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared, Tayata Om Gate Gate Padagate Padasam Gate Bodhi Soha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage. It is like that. It is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom, just as you have indicated, even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan, having thus spoken, the Venerable Sharadvatiputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, those surrounding in their entirety, along with the world of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan. I prostrate to the gathering of the Dakinis in the three chakras who abide in the holy yoga of using space. By your powers of clairvoyance and magical emanations, look after practitioners like a mother her child. Akasamara Sashida, Samara Sashida, Samara Sashida. Akasamara Sashadara Samara Yape. Tayata Gate Gate Padagate Padasam Gate Bodhi Soha. by the teachings of the three supreme jewels possessing the power of truth. May inner and outer hindrances be transformed. May they be dispelled. May they be pacified. May they be completely pacified. May all negative forces opposed to Dharma be completely pacified. May the host of 80,000 obstacles be pacified. May we be separated from problems and harmful conditions to Dharma. May all enjoyments be in accord with the Dharma, and may there be auspiciousness and perfect happiness here right now. So then turning to the mandala offering on page 15. Jangchu Badu Dabni Kyapsu Chi Dagi Chinyengi Pesunam Ki Trola Panjaya Sange Drupa Shu Sange Chudon Soge Chonamla Jangchu Badu Dabni Kyapsu Chi Dagi Chinyengi Pesunam Ki Trola Panjaya Sange Drupa Shu Sange Chudon Soge Chonamla Jangchu Badu Dabni Kyapsu Chi Dagi Chinyengi Pesonam Ki Drola Panchaya Sange Drupa Shu. Okay, so I have a message here, which is the latest, says latest from the Dalai Lama on the Ukraine situation and prayer for protection from war. So here last night we were doing, as advised by Lama Zopa Rinpoche, Guru Rinpoche's prayer, or one of Guru Rinpoche's prayer for overcoming the obstacles. Anyway, so I thought to just recite this one and then we could do a few mantras, keeping in mind. Anyway, I'll just read. Whoops, sorry. I'll go back and read it. It's gone somewhere else. Okay, this is from His Holiness. I have been deeply saddened by the conflict in Ukraine. Our world has become so interdependent that violent conflict between two countries inevitably impacts the rest of the world. War is outdated. Non-violence is the only way. We need to develop a sense of the oneness of humanity by considering other human beings as brothers and sisters. This is how we build a more peaceful world. Problems and disagreements are best resolved through dialogue. Genuine peace comes about through mutual understanding and respect for each other's well-being. We must not lose hope. The 20th century was a century of war and bloodshed. The 21st century must be a century of dialogue. I pray that peace is swiftly restored in Ukraine. His Holiness the Dalai Lama, February 28th, 2022. And so then Padmasambhava Guru Rinpoche prayer for protection from warfare. It's a little bit, excuse me, I've lost it again. I'll just read this bit, okay. I did have, anyway, when terrifying armies of oppression encircle us, menacing the great centers of the Dharma with destruction, with no trace of doubt or hesitation, we pray. O Guru Rinpoche, with your retinue of 8 classes of gods and demons, you will repel aggressors and their armies. Okay, so it's not coming up the list. So we can hold that in mind. And recite the mantra of Guru Rinpoche, Padmasambhava. Om Ahum Vajra Guru Padma Siddhi Hum. 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 Om Ahum. Om Ahum Vajra Guru Padma Siddhi. Then I thought to just also from Kadrala, just a short few lines. The thorough annihilation of Mara's hordes and banishment of obstructing forces. Q. No autonomous good or evil arises with mutual dependence. However, by grasping at an independent self, it appears, don't grasp. Similarly, don't strive to abandon it. Rest in the equal taste of mind's nature, don't grasp. The true enemy of Buddhism is confusion, whether embodied or otherwise, which perishes within non-conceptual dharmata. Okay, so appropriate to this morning, rounding off these teachings on the 4 truths, is looking at Buddha nature, Tathagata Gaba. And we have, as one of the prayers before teachings, the beginning of teachings, which often, certainly we do every single time with Lama Zopa Rinpoche on retreats and so forth, and other centers do quite frequently, but the praise to Shakyamuni Buddha and recalling the qualities of the Buddha. And every time, I think, when His Holiness the Dalai Lama has been in Australia, this is where all, and just in my experience, I've been to Tibetan community celebrations for Losar, for Sakadal, for all these important times. The very first prayer that's done is invoking the Buddha through the praise of Shakyamuni Buddha. I think when I ordained, it was one of the first prayers that Geshe Sampson said to learn. So I'll just read some of this. So when we're talking about, well, I'll probably read quite a bit of it. When we're talking about Buddha nature and this praise to Shakyamuni Buddha, it's like invoking all the energy of all the Buddhas into the space. Of course, all our prayers and practices do that, you know. But it's really invoking that in our own minds, contemplating that really in our own minds. So the first few verses are looking at, you know, the Buddha having, you know, we talk about the two purposes, having completely developed the self-purpose, having completely purified the delusions. So looking at the emptiness of a mind of a Buddha as being naturally pure, which is also our innate Buddha nature. And then also we talk about these two purities, the adventitious purity, which comes along through the work we do to purify all there is to purify. So we've got this innate Buddha nature, all beings with a mind, Sem Chen, have that. And then on top, the work we do to purify our minds, which is, you know, in this life, other lives, and so forth. And so, and then it goes on to establishing the purpose of others. So I'll just read. Guru, teacher, Bhagawan, Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly complete Buddha, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of beings to be subdued, teacher of gods and humans, to you, Buddha Bhagawan, glorious conqueror, Shakyamuni, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. So the qualities. When supreme amongst humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you who were wise then, I prostrate, with pure bodies, form supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, Savior, to you I prostrate. With the supreme science, face like a spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. Dust free like you, the 3 worlds are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the teacher having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you, the one gone to thusness, I prostrate. The purity that frees one from attachment, the virtue that frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime purity, pure reality, to the Dharma that pacifies, I prostrate. So we're going on from the qualities of the Buddha, qualities of the Dharma, qualities of the Sangha. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. And then the summation of the Buddha's teachings. Do not commit any unwholesome actions, engage in perfect wholesome actions, subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. And then comes verses from the Vajrakata Sutra, from the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras, from the second turning of the wheel. And Lama Zopa Rinpoche encourages us to recite these slowly and to meditate on that, meditating on emptiness. So looking at the impermanent nature, which was, you know, when we were looking at the first aspect of the First Noble Truth, this comes back to this again and again. A star, and we contemplate this again and again. It gets deeper and deeper meaning every time, understanding all the different aspects of the dependent arising nature and the emptiness of inherent nature. A star, a defective view, sometimes that's mirage, you know, translated mirage, defective view. A butter lamp flame, an illusion, a dewdrop, a water bubble, a dream, lightning, a cloud. See all causative phenomena like this. So this is how, you know, meditating over and over again, taking all of that meaning deeper and deeper into our mind through these merits. And this is, you know, then how we attain the path. Through these merits, may sentient beings attain the rank of all-seeing, subdue the foe of faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. So there we set a profound, motivation of bodhicitta. And again and again and again, we need to do this, remind ourselves of our goal. Our goal is to achieve the path, to achieve the state of being ourselves the objects of refuge, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha for others. So we attain that through perfecting our own qualities, purifying our own minds, and then being able to skillfully guide others to do the same thing. So, and then by developing all the true paths, it removes everything that obscures the mind. So we have the presentation of the Lam Rim and so forth, graduated path to enlightenment. And by virtue of that, we then become the Sangha jewel. So Sangha jewel is one who has a direct perceptual realization of emptiness in our own mind stream. So we become that, being able to be relied on by others. But I can confidently say right now, it's a work in progress. So we're working on it. I can say for myself. But eventually, this is how we progress along the path and develop that Sangha jewel in our own mind stream. I remember one time, a student, saying, I can't take refuge because I can't take refuge. Sangha means literally community. I can't take refuge in my fellow Dharma students, Dharma brothers, sisters. So not understanding what it means. Can work on that one, right? We work on the harmony with each other for sure. I always think, if I can't get along with my Dharma brothers, sisters in the Dharma Center, what is hope is there for me to be able to benefit all sentient beings, the ones who disagree with me, the ones I don't like, the ones who are not on the path. Like, as Lama Yeshe said, this is our training ground, right? So we have, so the naturally abiding Buddha nature that we're all born with, it's our birthright, the emptiness of the mind, that in our case, yet to abandon, in the case of an ordinary being, yet to abandon defilements and transform that into the nature Dharmakaya, the truth body, the wisdom body of a Buddha. So Sakya Pandita, who was one of the 5 great founders of the scholars of the Sakya tradition, one of the lineage holders, was in the 11th century in Tibet. And he described this as the unchanging nature of mind on the basis of this continuum of a sentient being, which continues on when completely purified, doesn't stop, into the continuum of a Buddha, completely transformed. And that empty nature of the mind is beyond, as I say, the 3 times, past, present, and future, beyond realms of cyclic existence, beyond constructive karma, destructive karma, beyond karma. So it's neither by its nature virtuous or non-virtuous, which means it can act as a basis for both our samsara, our continued cycles of existence, suffering existences, and our nirvana, our liberation from that. So it's like we get to choose, but it doesn't feel like we choose. It just feels like we're propelled time and again into the disturbing states of mind, doesn't it? But to realize these are states of mind. Samsara is a state of mind. Liberation, nirvana, cessation is a state of mind. So we develop that. We develop our Buddha nature in this sort of general way. So right now we can say we have that Buddha potential, that Buddha nature, that seed, it's the analogy of the seed. And so if you take for example, a mango seed. Now, I don't know if it's just a Queensland thing, but I saw mango seeds dried out and painted and decorated and little fuzzy bits and made look like faces. And you can do that. We can use it for all sorts of different things. But the mango seed, by its nature, is a potential mango tree, isn't it? That then grows and flowers and produces yummy fruit that people enjoy, right? So it becomes a source of enjoyment, you know, for others. If we give it the right nutrients, put it in the right soil, nourish it, cultivate it over time, and so forth. So just the same, we have innate potential to develop our mind to become a mind of a Buddha. But check up, you know, a lot of the time, we're not using our mind for that. I mean, here we can say us, we're really making this effort. We're here, we're doing what we can, but it seems nonetheless so spontaneously distractions arise. You know, someone comes to the door, we're all distracted or something like that. Distractions arise, rumination arises, you know, the blah, 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 chatterbox mind arises. You know, just this idle stream of chitter chatter of the mind, fantasies, distorted thoughts, afflicted states of mind, they just seem to come uninvited, really. They are uninvited guests into the mind. So just like with the mango seed, if we actually access this Buddha nature, cultivate it, give it all the right nutrients, give it all the right, you know, fertilizer and so forth. So this includes, you know, if we look at all the different consciousnesses, it includes all the neutral mental consciousnesses that we attain through meditative absorptions, you know, the beings in the form and formless realms. So it's like, it's a neutral mind state, as well as all our virtuous mental factors, all our love, our compassion, our wisdom, our faith, all the virtuous factors, our bodhicitta, this infinite altruism. So progressively we develop, you know, as the bodhisattva or the bodhisattva in training with the L plates on. So that's what I like to think, baby bodhisattvas training on the bodhisattva grounds, which is developed over eons, you know, each of the bodhisattva grounds were developed gradually, progressing through the 10 bodhisattva grounds. So we develop all our pure positive qualities, which are come along with that package of our Buddha nature. They are in our nature, to immeasurable compassion, immeasurable love, immeasurable faith, immeasurable patience, immeasurable wisdom, and so forth. So for example, as we see in the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, chapter 9, the first verse, where Shantideva says, all the previous perfections were taught for wisdom, for attaining the wisdom mind. So we need this vast accumulation of merit. And, you know, and that becomes the cause, because it's cultivated in relationship to other sentient beings, becomes a cause for the form bodies of the Buddha. And then also the consciousnesses that form the collection of wisdom. So we need the two collections, amassing of merit. We need to amass great merit and great wisdom, which is the cause for the Dharmakaya, the wisdom body, the truth body. And in the Tantra path, this includes visualizing oneself as the deity. Those who've taken tantric empowerments, we say bringing the result into the path is a cause for attaining the Buddha form body. But in the perfection, Mahayana perfection path, the Paramitayana path, it's the accumulation of the masses of merit, of stores of virtue. And so yes, it is possible. And this is where we gain conviction over and over again, remind ourselves it is possible to increase these virtuous qualities and mental states limitlessly. Now, right at the moment, we might not think limitlessly, but check up however long we've been, putting the Buddha's teachings into practice according to our capacity, how much we have seen that ability increase. Otherwise, we'd say, well, I don't see any evidence, I'm out of here. It's our own experience that tells us that. We see it. We see a gradual chipping away. We see a gradual undercutting of what seems to be spontaneous negative states arising in our minds. And we identify them and apply antidotes. But these positive states can be developed limitlessly because their base, which is the clear light mind, because that is stable and there's nothing that can oppose it. There's no opposing mind or mental factor that can eliminate it. So therefore, it is a suitable base for developing our wisdom mind. The Havajja Tantra says that sentient beings are just Buddhas, but they are defined by adventitious stains. When they are removed, they are Buddhas. So we talk about the adventitious stains being the afflictions, and because of the clear light nature of mind, because that is a stable foundation, because that is able to be purified, we can be rid of it. And then we get the adventitious purity by working on our mind. So it's our birthright. It's our potential to become those objects of refuge for others and guide them to attain their own Buddhahood because they have the same potential. So in this Losar period, these, started yesterday, we continue on. Today is the second day of Losar, the days of miracles, where the Buddha manifested miraculous deeds. We'll talk about that. So it commemorates the Buddha's qualities, the Buddha's powers, the powers unique to a Buddha, and so forth. And these days commemorates a time when Shakyamuni Buddha uncharacteristically displayed miracles. Why uncharacteristically? Like, wouldn't normally happen. Because, a being who's enlightened doesn't say, hello, I'm enlightened, come follow me. I always say, if somebody ever says that, run in the opposite direction. Oh, I have these qualities. In fact, one time when one great yogi was invited to the US to present at a conference, and His Holiness the Dalai Lama said, now, if they ask you about your experiences, you have to tell them. So he got an order from the boss. So he had to say something, not just hide their miraculous abilities or capacities or experiences. So when he was indeed asked, he sat there with his head almost on the ground going, I abide in immutable great bliss. And that was it. Okay, immutable great bliss. We get the picture, cessation, isn't it? The attainment of the third noble truth, cessation. I abide in immutable great bliss, nothing disturbing, no afflicted states, afflictions arising in the mind, his experience. Also, we can look at other examples, like, for example, Lama Zopa Rinpoche was young at the time. So there are different, we talk about these miracles, we say siddhis, manifestations of what's possible. Generally not displayed. In Laudo Lama, which is about the recognition of Lama Zopa Rinpoche and reincarnation of Kunsang Yeshe, his previous incarnation. So he was very young, maybe 6, 7, 8. And the group was walking along and it was raining, and somebody in the group was a bit frustrated with the rain and said, well, if you're such a great Lama, reincarnate Lama, can you make the rain stop? And he did. Okay, he was young, the sun came out. You know, I saw that one time with His Holiness Dalai Lama in Sydney. 2007, I remember it because it was the first time His Holiness was talking at the Happiness and Its Causes conference. And we arrived in the venue early in the morning. There'd been so much rain, a bit like now over in the east, that the convention centre stage, there was rain coming down on the stage. And I got there, I was a volunteer coordinator, whatever, I was looking after the Sangha area. And they had all the wet vacs on the stage. And the stage had been set up the night before. And of course, which chair was actually the wettest? The one for His Holiness. Everything got zhuzhed around. In fact, Malcolm Turnbull at that time was the water minister, and he had pulled out at the last minute. And as the event was going on, there was dripping coming down from the roof. And one of the panelists said, well, he might not be here, but I can feel his presence. Minister for Water. But anyway, meanwhile, at the Domain, His Holiness was giving an outdoor teaching, public talk. And again, pouring with rain, we all abandoned the idea. We had stalls and we just abandoned all of those. And they had to make sure the outdoor stage was safe. And so it was raining. His Holiness comes onto stage, sunshine. His Holiness gives talk. His Holiness leaves the stage, rain. Now, he didn't say, I just did that, but he was just like, now that's something you want to be able to do. Very convenient. So, we take whatever. So these days of miracles were because at the time of the Buddha, there were, these teachers who refuted the Buddha's teachings, titikas we called them, and particularly these 6 founders, they were called. And they would come along to the Buddha's teachings with their 90,000 followers. They had a lot of followers to upset the Buddha's teachings, to refute and so forth. Now, in my experience, if you want to debate with a high realized being or even a less realized being, you want to know your arguments very well, because as we've seen, in our Tibetan tradition, because the debating gets your mind very, very precise, gets your minds very, very clear, right? So you want to, anyway, so this was done. So these titikas went to the king and said, hey, we want to challenge the Buddha to a series of, not duels, but want to challenge to show some powers, to show evidence of his powers. All right. And so this is why the Buddha did for that purpose, for the purpose of that. And so they were in, it was a sort of jewel of mystical powers, if you like. It was in Shravasti. So Shravasti in Bihar, where Deer Park, where the Buddha first gave the teachings on the Four Truths. And also did 25 years rains retreats. So that air is completely still. I don't know, those of you who've been on pilgrimage, maybe India, Nepal, and so forth, places like Paping and Guru Rinpoche cave, from the practices done there, you go in there and it's exquisitely cool and still. So like that, the accumulation of energy to this day, somewhere like Shravasti. So meanwhile, back at the time of the Buddha, the Buddha accepted to engage in this display of mystical powers, and it continued over a 2-week period. And the motivation to be able to give the teachings, to be able to not to put down the others, but to inspire more faith in his followers and teach, you know. So, and of course the Buddha won, just saying, and all of those present, you know, bowed down to the Buddha, became Buddhist and so forth. And many beings gained realizations, many gained faith in their teachings, attained liberation right there and then. So their minds were ripe. So today being the second day, the day of miracles. So just on this day, just one example of the days of miracles. So the king, who was Udayana, made all these great offerings to the Buddha. And the Buddha turned the head to the right, turned the head to the left. And on either side of the lion throne, he was seated on, Jewel Mountain arose. And on each mountain, magical spring. So of exquisite water with 8 different tastes. This relates to when we make our offerings, you know, we talk about the 8 water bowls, or we say 7 water bowls, and the 8th one's the music, you know. But these qualities, as it's said in the commentary to Vasubandhu's Treasury of Knowledge, you know, the 8 qualities, we talk about the water being cool, delicious, light, soft, clear, odorless, easy on the throat, kind to the stomach, right? These 8 properties. And it's wonderful to contemplate those when we're making the offerings, and then see what the corresponding karmic benefits of each one of those. So saying that it is cool, you know, offering cool water, hint, cool water, not warm water, cool water, we're talking about on the altar, means that your ethics will be pure. If you think about that, because a pure ethics is based on having a cool mind, you know, not one agitated by the afflictions. Because it is also delicious, you will come to enjoy most delicious food. So here we have also delicious food offered here. The lightness of the water means your mind and body will become fit, pliant, light. The water's softness results in a gentle mind stream. A clear mind results from the water's clearness. So clear, free of all the adventitious stains. Odorless, the water's being odorless will purify you of karmic obscurations. And because the water does not hurt the stomach, your body will be free from illness. It's being easy on the throat means you will come to have pleasant speech. So just look at all the qualities we develop by the qualities of water, right? So this is exquisite. This is in Liberation in the Palm. So very exquisite contemplation, that in and of itself. So we can, you know, sort of also contemplate that, particularly during this Losar period, these days of miracles up to the 18th of March, which are each Buddha days on the calendar, which is 100 million times the merit, the virtues, every breath, every thought that's virtuous, every action, every moment of speech that's virtuous. That is not harming, as His Holiness says, you know, war's outdated, non-violence. So, you know, we can just really go for it and see, you know, that to be an accumulation to help us progress swiftly on the path ourselves. And of course, during this period, these 2 weeks, you know, in the great monasteries, you know, there's extensive pujas to Palden Lamo, the protector of Tibet, usually done before dawn. Kopan, I'm not sure if it's happening this year, I didn't check. have an annual Monlam, means Great Prayer Festival for days, for weeks, chanting, from morning into the evenings. So it can really inspire us to make the most. We've been requested or given advice by Candrela during this period. We have Candrela's observation for removal of obstacles each year at this Losar period for the health and enduring lives of His Holiness Dalai Lama and Khebje Lama Zopa Rinpoche, is to recite as much as possible during this period White Tara mantras and the Chen Rezig mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum. So we'll do some of those at the end before the long life prayers, or when we do the long life prayers, and to keep a tally of the number, and then we can accumulate that here. We did some last night. I hope the bit of paper's here somewhere. So when we do this evening, we can do some this afternoon, not this evening, don't panic. At least we'll do the Chen Rezig one because people know that one. I'm not sure if the White Tara one's in there. If it is, we can do too, but if not, we can do at least Om Mani Padme Hums and keep an accumulation, because FPMT is asked at the end, of these, keep going at home, wherever, whenever you come here, up until the 18th. And then we need to send straight away to FPMT, to our accumulation, to that then gets offered, Venerable Roger offers to Lama Zopa Rinpoche on our behalf. So, okay, so that last day, Choktrul Duchen, that's what it's called in the Tibetan calendar, the 15th day of the lunar calendar. I found it very interesting. I was looking the other day that it coincides with, I don't know if it coincides every year, it's interesting, with Lent in the Christian faith, with the 40 days of, well, I was going to say 40 days of fasting, but I'm not sure that people fast for 40 days. We've got those, it's very, the energy in the world of, this time of prayer, and coinciding, unfortunately, with the situation in Ukraine, but gives us great opportunity to also continue with those prayers and practices. Okay. Okay, so when we look at the four truths, the first and second truth, truth of suffering and origin, is what obscures us. It shows how we're blind to the reality of our Buddha nature, of ultimate truth, of dependent arising, and we sort of buy into the conventional truth, continuously leading us into suffering existences. So here we need to focus on how is it that ourselves, others, all of phenomena, in fact, are mere designation, mere imputation, and we can hear the words, but thinking it's all a dependent arising is the easiest way, and say, therefore subject to change, therefore everything is possible, therefore I can become enlightened in this very lifetime. The thing is, do we believe it? Do we have confidence? Me? But this is what the Buddha demonstrated. We can choose. We can stay stuck in samsara. The Buddha showed us how we were doing that, but also fortunately showed us the way out of that by these teachings. So then we have to rely on our fully qualified Mahayana gurus, our lamas, our external objects of refuge, until we attain that state ourselves, the own realizations of these three objects of refuge, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, in our own mental continuum. So what does that mean? At the moment, if we're obscured in the Maitreya's sublime continuum goes into detail on the various aspects of our Buddha nature, getting an appreciation for that and what our potentiality is to attain that. So the Sublime Continuum Guru Lama. It's studied in the basic program. And it's just a view, you know, that is elaborating on our Buddha nature. So then if we look at some of the qualities of a Buddha, it's good to reflect again and again and again, what are these qualities that I can attain, that I can fulfill the potential of, that a Buddha shows the proof of. So Matrita, in the 1st century in India, he was seen as one of the great Indian poets, and he was Hindu, but then met his Lama, Arya Deva, and became Buddhist as a result. So he says, take refuge in whoever has absolutely no shortcomings. It's a high bar, right? Absolutely no shortcomings. But we are fortunate in this very life to have encountered the teachings, if not met directly, of His Holiness Dalai Lama, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, other lamas who definitely manifest this. Absolutely no blindness, and in whom resides every aspect of all good qualities. When you think of this, respect those who praise him and abide by his teachings. So we talk about these 10 powers of the Buddha. There's all these lists in Buddhism, 10 of this and 8 of that, and so forth and so forth. But it's good to go through and contemplate these afresh again and again. So the power of knowing the consequences of all karmic actions, the action, but their consequences. Very complicated topic, as the Buddha said to Ananda, only a Buddha knows this. So only a Buddha knows this. And the power of knowing the previous causes for all karmic results in details. So yes, knowing the results, but what was the cause of that specific result, you know? The power of knowing the various wishes of all living beings simultaneously. Our aspirations, our wishes. Having the aspiration, having the wish to become a Buddha, setting our mind in bodhicitta. Buddha is delighted and, you know, is there for us, manifest for us in whatever form is going to engage us. The power of knowing the various dispositions of all living beings, our tendencies, our habits, our capacities, right? The power of knowing the scope of all living beings. So whether we're engaging in the lower scope capacity, middle scope capacity, which is where we find the teachings on the Four Truths, because it's about liberation from samsara altogether, or the great scope, having made an aspiration to become a Buddha because we believe it's possible. So not all the Buddhist schools will really focus on Buddhahood, you know. So we see the lower schools focusing on self-liberation. So this is the great capacity being. The power of knowing the spiritual paths of all beings. So that includes where we are, you know, still if we think that, you know, entrance to the path of accumulation is, you know, generating the mind of renunciation, of definite emergence. Check up. The power of knowing the different meditations appropriate for the liberation of each being. So perhaps some of you have sought advice from your spiritual teachers, your spiritual friends, your gurus, lamas, whichever label we wish to give, and being given specific practices, because at that time it might be either to, for a particular obstacle, but also according to our capacity and where we're at, we were very specific. But the Buddha taught a whole raft of different approaches, different, both within the body of placement meditation and within the body of analytical meditation, special insight meditation, and then combining the two. So where we're at, the Buddha knows exactly how to guide us according to where we're at. The power, the Buddha knows the power, has the power of knowing the previous lives of every being. So when the Buddha first sat on that Bodhi tree, people, but now we could say Bodhi tree, in Bodhgaya, and in the first quarter of the night saw his own past lives, and in the second quarter of the night, all the past lives of every other sentient being, which makes the Buddha the ultimate psychologist, knows exactly how to guide specifically each and every one of us, how to connect with us, how to engage with us. The power of knowing the body leaving process in death and rebirth of all living beings. So the Buddha has gone beyond needing to go through this process of death and rebirth, which we're just propelled into uncontrolled by karma currently. But the fact that we have those teachings about that whole process is quite amazing, that we can practice on a daily basis, that the dissolutions of the time of death is indeed what happens when we fall asleep, right? The gross senses dissolving, elements dissolving, the gross levels of mind dissolving and going into a more subtle, not the most subtle, level of mind. And then it's like we re-embody, reverse that process as we're waking up. So the more we can shine the light of awareness of that, familiarize, meditate on that whole process, the more we start to gain control over it, or at least lessen the fear. I think step one, lessen the fear of what's going to happen, But also if we can shine more awareness and familiarization, then we can also be so familiar. Venerable Dronso, who passed away a few years ago at Vajrayana Chenrezig Institute. And as she was coming towards the end of her life, she said, oh, I think that's stage one. Oh, maybe that's stage two. And you think, well, maybe not, but it's good to think, right? It's good to be able to recognize signs of, oh, yes, I can feel the earth element. I can feel getting heavier. I can feel being, feeling like I'm buried alive. And indeed, when I spoke, one person who I spoke to over a period of years of being palliative over a few years, and there were times where she indeed would report that experience, and you'd think, oh, that was the earth element dissolving. Because let's face it, the earth element, it's dissolving already. The older we get, the more we see that, right? So we can think like that and go, yeah, I can see that happening. Okay. And the power of knowing which obstacles have been abandoned by each and every living being. So there's no fooling a Buddha, so nowhere to hide, when you're in front of your Lama, I just want to have a moment of pure mind without all the rubbish. They're able to see what's still in our minds that needs to be abandoned. And then the qualities of a Buddha not shared by arhats. Actually, I'll just back up there. So I was thinking in relation to this one, knowing what has to be still abandoned, always, the confidence and of the bodhisattvas when training on the path and their particular difficulties and so forth. They make a vow to help beings, confronted by those, for example, Vajrasattva, who when training on the path had great difficulty maintaining vows and it is said. And so made a vow. This is why the Vajrasattva is such a powerful deity practice for purification, because that was the vow indeed of Buddha Vajrasattva when training on the path as a bodhisattva, that I'm going to be there for those beings who have difficulty breaking their vows. You know, he'd even, like, one instance where he gave a teaching that wasn't according to the disposition and level and so forth, and was a bit, you know, was out of sync. And so one of his students actually took over and gave the teaching. So, you know, we can look at distort past lives, like for that of Shakyamuni Buddha, past lives of these other Buddhas, and see, oh yes, what they worked with in their mind and what they were able to abandon, and how that specifically helps us. Right? So a Buddha's body doesn't have any displeasing qualities. And we can see evidence of that because so many people, Buddhist or otherwise, are attracted to the representation of the Buddha's body. There's nothing displeasing there anywhere. I always find this one fascinating. A Buddha's speech does not contain any exclamations. And then I think of Lama Zopa Rinpoche, wow, 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 amazing, 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 amazing. Now, why? Because Lama Zopa Rinpoche is always encouraging us to rejoice, to uplift ourselves, to look at our positive qualities, focus on those. So it's quite deliberate. So I think when it says exclamation, it's more about no exaggeration, no elaboration. It's just rather than inflection in voice. I mean, look at His Holiness the Dalai Lama when he's sort of laughing in the whole body and, oh, very good, you know. We could probably put, well, I certainly know with Lama Zopa Rinpoche, Venerable Sarah's or John, always putting exclamation marks with the lines and lines of wows. So it doesn't mean that literally. So we see the purpose is to uplift our mind, to encourage us, to inspire us, and to value what we are doing. A Buddha's mind never forgets anything. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Wouldn't that just be great to not forget, to have such clarity, such mindfulness, the mindfulness of non-forgetfulness. A Buddha's mind never leaves his meditative concentration on reality, even when engaging in enlightened deeds. So this is unique to a Buddha. Only a Buddha can remain there in single-pointed concentration on emptiness, you know, meditative concentration on reality. So it says single-pointed concentration on this, and at the same time being able to engage in benefiting other beings. And this is represented by the Buddha's eyes being half closed in meditative concentration and half open, engaging, connecting with us, teaching, and so forth. So a Buddha does not experience any false appearances. So we talk about these two sets of obscurations, the afflictive obscurations that are antidoted by the direct perceptual realization of ignorance, and then the cognitive obscurations, which is like, don't have the power to manifest karmically, but the seed, the imprint on the mind. We can say the afflictive obscurations is like the onion in the jar, and the, you know, and that gets removed, but there's still some residual smell there. So that's like these cognitive obscurations, which is obscuration to Buddhahood, to omniscience, that get removed on those, you know, bodhisattva paths and grounds, so, you know, gradually. But this mind, this of false appearances, grasps at, might have a direct perceptual understanding of reality, but still grasps as appearances as being inherent from their own side, right? So still grasps at that. But a Buddha's mind knows, a Buddha sees conventional truth. You know, it's not like they go around and don't see things and knock into things. That doesn't happen. They see it, but at the same time, know its illusory nature. No, they don't get attached. If you remember Y2K, remember Y2K? The year 2000, we were going to come to an end as a world. So His Holiness the Dalai Lama was giving a teaching in Washington on the 8 verses of thought transformation. It was 98. And the question arose, what do we do? The world's coming to an end. Y2K. And His Holiness said, oh, we'll just go somewhere else. No problem. If the world comes to an end, just go somewhere else. So we know that His Holiness is very much engaged in this world, right? And in fact, you know, his most recent book on our only home and environmental responsibility and care for each other and so forth. We get all the messages, right? Very much grounded for our benefit in this life, in this world, right? And may he live long and continue in that vein. But at the same time, has said, well, you know, keep working on your mind, go to the Pure Land, and then if the world does come to an end, you'll be in the Pure Land when that occurs. In other words, it's not like you go some other place, but that your mind then becomes like the mind of Buddha. You know, if we work on our minds, if we work on our capacities, we can do that and then not be attached to place, you know. Interesting. So we get these hints along the way, and if we contemplate the different qualities and think of different examples that resonate with us of each and every one. A Buddha is never so indifferent as not to check who is ready to make spiritual progress and to help them accordingly. So we have our teachers, we have our guides, you know, just ready, willing to help. It's up to us to ask. It is up to us to ask. And the response comes. A Buddha's good intentions never decline. So a Buddha doesn't discriminate, you know, good, bad, indifferent, helps me, hinders me, does neither. Just equal regard. The Buddha is, you know, constantly smiling, equal regard for all beings without exception, and equally good intentions towards all beings. A Buddha's enthusiastic perseverance never declines. So this week, some of us got an email from a Ukrainian Buddhist woman calling out to the world to help and what to do, you know, in terms of Dharma practice and so forth and so forth. And some of it, you know, so some of us responded and just letting her know the whole world is watching, just, and, you know, links to practices and so forth. The whole world is praying for you. You know, the whole world is looking and acting, you know, that to not feel alone, and that sense of don't give up. Just don't give up, never give up, as His Holiness says. That's this one, you know, never declining that enthusiastic perseverance, you know, especially when the going gets tough. Because that's when it's really hard. That's when we have to practice hard, isn't it? It's all very well. I can be an enthusiastic when everything's going well, but when it's not, you know, how many doubts arise as to, does this really work? Why am I having a bad time? Because we want to see immediate results. Or even we might just get complacent because, well, I've been doing this practice for so long. I've heard that teaching so many times, and it's not deliberate, but we need to refresh. We need to find different ways of refreshing our engagement, isn't it? A Buddha's single-pointed concentration never declines. In other words, Buddha's never distracted, never, ever distracted, just single-pointed in the zone. Very handy too. Oh, it's all very handy. It's a bit silly when you say very handy. A Buddha's wisdom, understanding, emptiness never declines. And then, of course, the two are combined in the Buddha's mind, in the one mind. You know, when we're training on the path, we develop the placement meditation, calm abiding meditation, single point of concentration. And then we develop that capacity and use it to, in analytical meditation when we have an aha moment. So we're alternating backwards and forwards, but here, so they're two different like mind states, but here it's one mind state of a Buddha combined. A Buddha's enlightened qualities never decline. The Buddha sees the past, the future, the presence with omniscience, neither attached nor hindered. Now, generally, we talk about the 112 signs of the Buddha, the 32 major marks and the 80 minor signs. But we can also think, as Lama Tsongkhapa says, body born of 10 million virtues and excellences. So that's just the body. So when you think of every atom, every particle being the ripening, the fruition of realizations and qualities. Speech that fulfills the hopes of infinite beings. So the power of speech, talked about 60 eloquent qualities of the Buddha's speech. You know, when we hear someone like His Holiness Dalai Lama or Lama Zopa Rinpoche and giving the same teaching over and again, and you might have heard it from somewhere else, but it has a weightiness, a power, a meaning. It sort of resonates on a different level, or where you feel that it's head and heart at the same time. Maybe you've had those experiences in teachings. It just sort of seems to go in beyond all our sort of coarse levels of mind. Mind that sees all knowables as they are. So a Buddha knows everything that is to be known. Everything that is to be known is known by a Buddha. All phenomena are known by a Buddha. Okay. All objects of knowledge. So sometimes when you watch the Mind and Life conferences with His Holiness and a mind scientist, and they're presenting their latest finding and really enthusiastic and passionate about Your Holiness. I won't necessarily say they're trying to impress His Holiness, but they're just, you know, very enthusiastic. And then His Holiness will go, yes, and just give a different perspective. It's not like, oh, wow. It's just like, well, of course, like, I know that. He doesn't say I know that. But it's very interesting if you sort of watch those interactions and see, and he does know that. As His Holiness said at that, I may have mentioned before, happiness conference a couple of years ago, when he was asked, you know, what have you learned from the, you know, the neuroscientists and physicists during this time? Nothing, but they've learned a lot from me, you know. Okay. So we have the different bodies of the Buddha, as we've mentioned, the Dharmakaya, the truth body, which is not an actual physical body. It's the final wisdom consciousness that perceives ultimate truth, perceives conventional truth just as it is, and all objects of knowledge. So that's the Dharmakaya, wisdom, truth body. It's called those different things, Kaya body, right? And then we have the nature truth body. So this is what we're talking about in terms of our Buddha potential, our Buddha nature, which is in the nature of purity and the absence of any adventitious stains, defilements, obscurations, to liberation, obscurations, to Buddhahood. So it's true cessation. Yeah. Svavakikaya. And then we have the complete, what's called the complete enjoyment body, Sambhogakaya, that it can be seen by those who have higher realizations and direct realization of emptiness, a manifestation, who always teaches Mahayana in that aspect, Mahayana teachings. Abiding in what's called definite abode in Akanishta pure realm, which is sort of like the excellent, most excellent, unexcelled Buddha land, where you find there's no higher Buddha field than this, right? Shared with, for example, Kachara, pure land of Vajrayagini, Sukhavati, pure land of Buddha Amitabha, and Abharati, pure land of Buddha Akshobhya. So definite abode, definite body, having the marks and signs of a perfect being, definite retinue, which is the followers who are Arya Bodhisattvas, the entourage of Arya Bodhisattvas, not ordinary beings. And giving definite teachings, a Mahayana Dharma. And definite time, in other words, abiding until samsara ends. No death, no rebirth, taking whatever manifestation, so emanation bodies, which is for our benefit, Nirmanakaya aspect. So all of these bodies arise simultaneously once you become a Buddha. So we have what's called supreme emanation body, as we have had in this, we've had the karma to have this connection with Guru Shakyamuni Buddha in this eon, fortunate eon. And we have things like artisan emanation body, which might be musicians or artists or craftsmen. I was thinking of someone like Gomo Tuku. Gomo Tuku's reincarnation of Gomo Rinpoche, who was particularly associated in FBMT with Institute Vajrayagini in France. I had the great fortune to meet Gomo Tuku in France. And along with Oso, they both, I'm not sure if they're good friends, left the monastery around, disrobed around the same time. And Gomo Tuku is a musician. He does rap. And at that was at the CPMT, and then there was a Mani retreat going on afterwards with Lama Zopa Rinpoche. So Gomo Tuku was there, was invited, and drop dead gorgeous, because it's like the emanator form that people are going to be attracted to, because you want to attract people to you because you want to give them the teachings, right? So he was requested to perform some of his music. And so he sort of came in a bit manifesting shyly, had his computer, and he did this rap. And I have to say, women my age were swooning at his feet. Sort of worked. And people were getting up and bopping and just taken by him. And just the heart connection through the power of music, right? Through the power, through all the power that he brought to that. And then this was the one time that he turned up. Obviously, Lama Zopa Rinpoche wasn't there at the time. There's the one time when he turned up. He usually came in with Rinpoche, and Rinpoche had him sitting right there. But this time, Rinpoche wasn't there, and then Rinpoche manifested at the tent entrance. Gomo took it, it was winter. He had a black knitted scarf around his neck. It's like he flew across the floor. I don't know how he landed up on his knees in front of Rinpoche, offering his scarf as like you would offer kata. So this is an understanding of emptiness, isn't it? It's not like, oh, where's my kata? I don't have my kata. You know, there's Rinpoche. I wasn't expecting Rinpoche. No, neurosis, none of that. It was spontaneous, just right there. Incredibly powerful, incredibly powerful. So as a musician resonating with others, or there might be like poets like the current Karmapa, you know, teaching through poetry, or like Lama Tsongkhapa, songs of experience, Milarepa, these that are the songs of experience, lines of experience are coming from their experience, actual experience, just like with the Buddha coming from actual experience. And then you have the incarnation emanation body, which could be any reincarnation or indeed inanimate object, any form that the Buddha is going to take to benefit beings. Right? So these are different qualities not shared by bodhisattvas. It is said, you know, from the very first bodhisattva ground, you have the capacity to emanate, say, 100 bodies, very handy. And then, you know, as you progress along the bodhisattva grounds, more and more, you know, then 1,000 bodies and so forth, to be able to benefit beings, to go wherever is needed. So we hear about this from time to time. For example, which example am I thinking of? Geshe Lama Konchok, you know. So we're familiar with Punsog Rinpoche as reincarnation of Geshe Lama Konchok, but prior to that, indeed, while he was still alive, another emanation, Dechen, you know, born in Scotland, she was born there. So, and recognized by Lama Zopa Rinpoche. And Rinpoche was asked, you know, why do we not see her, you know, in the public profile? And he said, it's because of her nature and her, you know, to protect her, actually, her sensitivity of her nature. So like that. We're not, you know. Remember when His Holiness the Dalai Lama reached headlines when he said if he might come back as a woman and he'd have to be attractive, and then there was a backlash against that. And then he apologized because it's not what he meant. He just meant to attract people. That's your job, you know, just like with the Karmapa, who's, you know, one previous incarnation who was said not to look so pleasant looking and made the vow to always come back in a beautiful body. Seems to have worked so far, right? Whatever we determine is a beautiful body, we might change our, in fact, over time, we have changed our ideas of what a beautiful body is. You know, it used to be big and voluptuous, now it's short, you know, small, whatever. A bit too small. Yeah. So we contemplate that, we contemplate the qualities of the Dharma, you know, beyond comprehension, beyond experience of ordinary beings. Well, not really beyond our experience, but if you hold on to the extremes of permanence or nihilism, then beyond. Free from delusion, free from karma. So lucid clarity distinguishing the two truths. And so the outer Dharma refuge, being all the texts and so forth, and then those realizations arising in our own mind stream when we attain the true parts ourselves, which liberates us. Okay. And then the Sangha Jaw, which is the inner wisdom, understanding how to counteract delusions, afflictions in each and every single situations as soon as they arise. And we see that with Lama Atisha, you know, recognizing as soon as that arises. We see it in the 8 verses of thought transformation. Vigilant, a moment a delusion arises in my mind, I'll confront and avert it without delay. So having eliminated attachments, preventing cessation, they're liberated and full of insight. So then we gain those realizations. It's our own, right now we can say, is our own aspiration, our own determination to attain the mind of enlightenment, our own bodhicitta. You know. Here we can go more deeply, so we're going to have time, into all of these qualities. Reflect over and over. How does this connect with my reality right now? How does this show me it's possible? Who are those beings that manifest in the world that show me this is possible? I think particularly at a time, we say these are challenging times, but that's what it was always. But the particular challenges the world is facing right now, which can be overwhelming and can get us into, you know, sinkholes of depression. And so contemplation such as this, reminding ourselves of our Buddha nature, uplifting our mind, uplifting our spirits, gives us capacity more and more, because it is in sync with reality. Okay. So we'll just leave this teaching here. And so when I return in a few weeks' time, we'll we'll be looking at the 12 links of dependent origination, which is if you like, unpacking in more detail and, you know, a different approach, looking at the Four Truths. So yeah, we'll do that then. And meantime, we'll do these dedications, and then we'll do some mantras. So did you distribute the White Tara mantra for folks? Everybody has? Okay. So first of all, we'll do the dedications, and then we'll do the long life. We'll do the mantras, and then keep a tally if you've got a mala and can count. And then if we've got a slip of paper, how many White Taras, how many Padme Hunks down the back. We'll be doing it briefly, so it may not be a lot. Okay. It's on the desk? Okay. Okay. Okay, so dedication, page 17, under the Idam Guru Ratna. Gewadi no hodo da lama hasan gedro gyone roha chikyang mahalopa te sahala go pasho jancho sencho grimposhe make panam ge kuchi ge panyam pa me payam gone gondu pelwashu. So then we'll do a few White Tara, Droka, White Tara mantras together. Tare chitare ture mama ayojanana punyejanana pushtam kurye soham arya tara ture mama ayo punyejanana pushtam kurye soham arya tara chitare tare chitare ture mama ayo punyejanana pushtam kurye soham tare chitare ture mama ayo punyejanana pushtam kurye soham tare chitare ture mama ayo punyejanana pushtam kurye soham tare chitare ture mama ayo punyejanana pushtam kurye soham tare chitare ture mama ayo punyejanana pushtam kurye soham tare chitare ture mama ayo punyejanana pushtam kurye soham tare chitare ture mama ayo punyejanana pushtam kurye soham. And then Om Mani Padme Hum, mantra of compassion. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. Dedicating for the long life of our precious gurus and for their health and well-being. You can say in English the long life prayers. The wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, to the incomparably kind Tenzin Gyatso, I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. Page 22 for the long life prayer for Kyabje Zopa Rinpoche. You who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serves as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjana's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplishes magnificent prayers, honoring the three jewels, savior of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. And long life prayer for Osul, keeping in mind that Lama Yeshe manifested passing from this body, this life, at Losar, 1984, 38 years ago. And so his reincarnation. Lord of Dharma, who in accordance with the various dispositions of those to be subdued, makes clear in the light of your well-spoken advice the sacred Ganden tradition essence of Buddha's teachings. O foremost and holy Lama, to you who are supreme, O Lama, please, please live long. Okay, thank you very much.